What's going on, everybody? Apparently a lot's going on. Minnesota Wild decided to take my maternity leave dreams and crush them between their bare hands.
They said, oh, you had a baby. We don't care.
We don't care. We're going to sign Jewel Eriksson the day after you give birth. We're going to now buy out Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. Alexis, obviously, a lot of adjectives that you could use to describe this. A lot of holy shit. Wow. Oh my gosh. It happened. But I would attribute that more to the Ryan Suter side. I think we all kind of saw the writing on the wall that in some way, shape, or form, Zach Parise was not going to be with the Minnesota Wild next year. However, Ryan Suter not with the Minnesota Wild is probably the most like, wow.
Yeah, I was really not surprised by the Zach Parise thing. Like you said, I don't think that was completely out of the question. In fact, I think that was the most likely thing to happen was him not being on the team. But the Ryan Suter part was very surprising to me, very surprising. And a couple of reasons for it is one, I would say that Ryan Suter hasn't really declined in his game. I mean, Zach Parise, we saw a bit of a decline in. Ryan Suter, he's been pretty steady. He's been reliable. Yes, we're paying him a lot of money, but I think he's been kind of living up to those expectations of you paying somebody that much. He's been providing. He's always been a reliable defenseman for the Minnesota Wild. He's had some injuries here and there, but other than that, he's been fantastic. So that one really took me by surprise. Also because we didn't really talk about that. Nobody was saying like, oh, we might buy out Ryan Suter. Oh,
nobody's even really, nobody said, let's get rid of Ryan Suter, right?
So when it happened, I was like, did I miss something? Was this like part of the plan? And it completely went over my head, or what happened here to create this scenario? It is kind of funny in the sense that they came in together and now they're leaving together. I mean, it's very poetic in the way that all of this happened. But yeah, when the news broke, I was like, holy crap, Ryan Suter too. And on Twitter, I saw that was pretty much everybody else's reaction was Ryan Suter too. Nobody was shocked by the Zach Parise part of it, but the Ryan Suter thing took everybody by surprise. And yeah, it's been a very crazy day because Russo broke it as saying like, this is probably going to happen. And I think it was about 10 minutes later that it officially happened. So it was a whirlwind of events going on here for the Minnesota Wild today. Just a very chaotic day for Wild hockey.
I mean, and at the end of the day, you look at it and everyone wants to focus on the salary cap and how it gives them an extra just over 10 mil to play with for this offseason, which is great. But that declines immediately next year. They're not given much more. To me, I think the most telling thing about this, or maybe the most beneficial thing about this, aside from, definitely getting a new regime in and getting a new totally new face of this team, I think is you get to protect two more players in the expansion draft. And I'm thinking that that's probably what Bill Guerin's thought process was. We actually had the chance to talk to him today. For those of you that were following along on all my socials, you saw that. And Bill said certainly there was not one mitigating factor. There was not one thing better than the other. He wasn't just looking at the salary cap. He wasn't just looking at the expansion draft. And ultimately he was very grateful for the time that Suter and Parise put in, but he just agreed that this was something that needed to happen. And he had that difficult conversation with Zach and Ryan this morning, and then had the conversation with the team and said, we're definitely changing things because he wants to win a Stanley Cup. He's not been shy about saying that. He sat back for a year, assessed the team. And this is one of the assessments that he made, but I think to me, it's exciting a little bit to not only get a turning of the tide here, or changing of the guard, but also because you can protect a couple more guys that maybe you weren't able to protect for Seattle.
Yeah. And that was the biggest takeaway, I think, for me too. There's a couple things that hit me. One was the whole idea of, okay, we could probably protect Matt Dumba now, which you're making a statement there, which I'm very on board with that. I have said all along, I would hate to lose Matt Dumba in the expansion draft for multiple reasons. So I like that gives us an opportunity to do that. Like you said, Jesse, I think you're lending hand to more of a culture change, which we started to see this year. Again, nothing against Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. We've said that we're like a broken record with that, but sometimes changes just need to happen.
And Bill was very clear about that too.
Yes.
He wasn't saying that the culture was bad as it was. He just wanted to see it different. So that was a big push by him as well today, and not trying to drag Zach and Ryan through the mud during the process of this.
Well, and like you said, it clears up a little bit of cap space, but they end up taking big hits in the following year. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there where it's like, okay, yeah, you get some relief, but at the end of the day, is this really beneficial? Which is what we talked about all along when we talked about a possible buyout. Is it sounds appealing because it sounds very like fast and quick. And it's like, oh, that's a quick fix. It's the meme of them slapping the duct tape on the leaking water tank. That's what that is. But we kept saying, at the end of the day, is that really going to be what's best? Well, now you just bought out 2 huge contracts, and you are making a big statement by doing that. So we'll see if by doing that, that is leading up to some kind of big trade coming this week. I just get the feeling this is the start of moves for Bill Guerin this week, not the one and only or the end of them. So you sign Julie Eriksson, you buy out Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. You're in contract talk with Kevin Fiala's agent, Kirill Kaprizov's agent, and you still need a goddamn top line center. So this might be part of some big moves here. We'll see what Bill Guerin has up his sleeve, but it's very exciting because I have always said sports are a risk. Everything you do is taking a risk, and you never know how risks are going to pan out. That's what the point of the definition of a risk is. I respect Bill Guerin for taking a chance here. And if it ends up not working, you know what? He tried. He made he made an effort to do something different, something he thought was going to work. And if it works, great. That's so exciting. And if it doesn't, at least he tried something and didn't just sit still with who he has and what he's doing and hope for the best. So I respect the hell out of him for that. And I'm very excited what the future looks like.
I mean, it's the same type of risk that Chuck Fletcher took, signing them to 13-year contracts. And I'm not going to say that it was a disappointment, right? Yeah. Because I think a lot of people are very quick, because we all cheered and celebrated on that July 4th, 9 years ago.
I think I cried
when they signed, right? Yeah. Like, we can't take that away. You can't say now, oh yeah, well, I knew that was a terrible idea. Like, no, you didn't. You loved every year of that contract, because we were planning the parade routes. We were doing all this. And certainly it's disappointing in the respect that a cup didn't come that way. Right. And but I would say it's more underwhelming than disappointing, because it didn't pan out. I think Zach Parise didn't turn into the superstar player that maybe we all had put him as. I think Ryan Suter, as you had said earlier, Alexis, has been consistent. You can't really deny any of that, but neither of them really were lighting the world on fire. And I don't think they were going to do that anywhere. So, I mean, there was that risk taken. I think now you're looking at more of a rebuild than maybe we had discussed last year. You know, we had certainly tried to avoid that word last season. This is a statement saying we were going to rebuild. And again, Bill Guerin has been so excited about the prospects. He loves having guys compete for a job. That was another thing that was very clear in his press conference today. You know, he wasn't going to say, yep, Callan Addison gets now the defensive position, right? He was like, I want everybody to fight for it. He mentions Brandon Duhaime down in Iowa as well as another name to keep an eye on. Not to mention, we're all going to start kicking up this offseason very, very quickly, because free agency starts on July 28th as well. After the expansion draft, you're going to see what you have as a team, and then you've got the actual NHL draft. But I would agree with you, Alexis. I think all of it's very exciting, because I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm so excited to see what the next moves are, because again, in Bill we trust. I know you hate to put so much trust in a GM, but I think it's great. It's very disappointing to not have a Zach Parise and a Ryan Suter on the team anymore, because they were really great guys. They've certainly rooted themselves in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, and wish them nothing but the best. And I'm sure it was a shock to their systems having this situation happen. But I think for the Minnesota Wild, it's probably for the best. I mean, we get to have 2 new assistant captains too, Marcus Polito.
Yes.
You know, it's
give them both the A's, one on each chest.
Yes. And the other thing I want to make note of that Bill Guerin was very clear on, certainly everyone's looking at that extra cap space as a tie to Kevin Fiala and Kirill Kaprizov. And Bill Guerin was very quick to say, nope, it has nothing to do with that. We are not giving out a whole bunch of money to this guy or that guy. And so, I mean, certainly he's probably just saying that. He's probably going to toss another mill, maybe one way or another. Yeah. And it makes signing Kevin Fiala possibly a little bit easier and giving him what he deserves. But it's going to be interesting. Buckle up. I anticipate this week to be a bit of a crazy one. So keep an eye on all of our social contents. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel, and we'll be able to jump on and give you reacts as quickly as possible. Alexis, closing thoughts, anything you want to say? I will say thank you to Zach Parise and Ryan Suter for allowing us to cover them. I know sometimes it sucks to talk to media, and they were very clear to not chat with us once in a while, but they were very great professionals and great to work with. So from my perspective, thank you to you both. Thank you for giving some excitement to this team, because again, that year they signed, it was a jolt of life into the state of hockey squad. So best of luck, boys.
I do just want to say quick to close it out on my end that I said this on Twitter at one point. This was probably about a month ago now, but people were talking about, you know, there was a photo going around during the playoffs of Zach Parise and Ryan Suter hugging after a goal, and the pure excitement.
The one that they used today, I believe, for the buyouts.
Yes, I think you're right. And everybody was saying, like, remember this photo. This might be the last time you see a picture like this. And at the time I was like, yeah, we'll see. There's a long off season. Who knows what could happen? And that ended up being true. And I just want to remind people, you kind of touched on a little bit, Jesse, but people expected a lot when those two came here, myself included. And we did think that there was maybe going to be some Stanley Cups in those 13 years that those two were expected to be on this team, right? I mean,
when you say it like that, you're like, God, they have 13 years to try to figure that out and didn't figure it out.
I mean, right? And you even said parade routes, plural. People thought this might be a thing, that the Wild were going to be a very good team for a decade, and it just didn't end up happening. And what I want to remind people of is a lot of people were really hard on Zach Parise and Ryan Suter in their time here, especially in the last few years or so. But they didn't have all the pieces necessarily in all of these years to put together a Stanley Cup winning team. That doesn't come down to just one or two or three or four players on a team. That's the whole team as a whole. You're not going to fault Connor McDavid for not having won a cup yet, because he's one of the best players in the NHL, right? I'm not saying comparing Parise and Suter to McDavid, but you need more pieces than just one talented player or two talented players to win those cups. So I respect the hell out of them. I was thrilled when they came to this team. I remember I was on vacation with my family. It came across on the radio when we were driving, and my dad and I both were like, both Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. I mean, the same reaction that everyone had today when they announced the buyouts, we had when they brought them on. And it is the end of an era. And it kind of hit me on the way home from work today that, man, this really is a change for the Minnesota Wild, for Minnesota Wild fans. And I'm even kind of getting chills talking about it. It's a big change here that we're seeing. And like Jesse said, it's going to be crazy moving forward what happens, but I'm very excited. And thank you to both of them for all the time they took being leaders on the team. You get stuck with the media quite a bit, and they did a good job with us, and I appreciate them for that. So
yeah, my contacts on the team just keep going away. So we'll see what secrets I can get. Younger guys have nothing in common with me. The older guys, we had kids to talk about, so we'll have to work.
It's a change for Jesse too. We're all going through.
It's really, let's feel bad for me and my plight that I have to deal with this now. So no, again, crazy news. Stay tuned. I feel like there's more, so certainly we'll cover it as it comes in, but thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, rate, go check out this week's podcast episode with Miss Kelly. Alexis killed it, butt chugging and all. So thank you for that. I'm glad I'm back. No more butt
Talk about chaos. This week has just been a lot from beginning to end.
It's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday.
So.
All right, guys, have a good one.